Hi, Phil Aston here from Now Spinning Magazine with another video, and this is a ranking video, but it's only a top 10. I know I do lots of things where it's a top 25 or whatever, and it's every album they've ever made. But this time, it's Kiss. And some of you have asked for this without realising it. When I did my video about storage solutions when you start to run out of space for CD, a couple of people said if you got rid of your Kiss albums, Phil, you'd have a lot more room. And that made me think. And then also, because I do my Kiss short little videos, and I have lots of Kiss fans say, when are you going to do a full feature on the band? So I thought, yes, I will. Because not a lot of people will realise that I am such a huge fan of Kiss. And my eldest son is a massive fan. I went to see them many times towards the end of their career. But also, this video is a story about what happens when you get into a band later on, which is exactly what I did, and how the entry point for that band's catalogue, can influence how you feel about everything that happens before or since from that point in time. That's why Asylum is sitting here, because this is my entry point to hearing of a Kiss album from beginning to end, which was the mid-80s. Before that, apart from I Was Made for Loving You, which I bought as a single, I had no Kiss in my record collection at all. And I had the opportunity when I was a youngster, age 17, to go and see them, the Birmingham Odeon, in 1976 for £1. But I'd seen a picture of them in Sounds magazine and thought, no, that isn't the kind of thing that I'm interested in. A couple of my friends went and they said they'd never seen anything like it before or since. You know, I think the tickets were £1. Stray supported them because the management worried that no one would go. But it didn't work in the UK. It didn't really happen here. But they did have a hardcore following, but nothing like the Kiss Army elsewhere in the world. Just didn't happen in the UK until the 80s. Now, I was in a band called Patron, and the vocalist was a huge Paul Stanley and Kiss fan. Well, Kiss fan, because there was no solo Paul Stanley at that point. And he kept telling me what a great frontman Paul Stanley was, a great voice, what fantastic music there was, etc. And eventually I sat down and listened to this, and it changed everything, but only a bit. Only a bit. It would take many more years before I read this, because I picked it up really cheaply in a book sale, that really made me want to discover more about this band and the phenomenon that is Kiss. I didn't realise that Paul Stanley had been born with literally one ear, and obviously his whole life had been deaf on one side, and being bullied at school, and how insecure he was, and etc., because it just went against everything that they kind of were. And he played Phantom of the Opera, and he got that role because of the disability he'd gone through life with, and it made me become curious about the band. And off I went down a rabbit hole, which saw me literally eventually get, and that's just part of my Kiss collection. I have tons of stuff on vinyl, and also doubles, box sets, and everything. So it was quite tricky for me to think of doing a ranking video to do Kiss that wasn't going to be at least a top 25. And then was it going to be every album, 25 tracks? And I thought, no, I'm going to try and be a little bit more disciplined for you guys, because I want to pitch this video in two ways. I'm pitching this video at people that don't like the band Kiss. I'm pitching them to pick 10 songs that I would like you to go off and listen to. So you can stop the video and keep coming backwards and forwards. Or I might do a short Spotify playlist and drop it into the comments. Because I want you to listen to the tracks that I've picked and see if it makes a difference. For all of you uber Kiss fans, you might need to sit down, because some of my choices and what I leave out of my top 10 Kiss tracks might be too much to bear. Okay, here we go. Number 10. Obviously, it's going to be from Asylum, because that was my doorway album into this band. But it isn't a track, perhaps, that you may expect. But a lot of you think, we have no idea what to expect, Phil, because we didn't expect you to be doing this video. Everything on my list is sung by Paul Stanley, apart from this one. And it is Trial by Fire, which is sung by Gene Simmons. Now, as I have explored the Kiss back catalogue, I feel myself drawn towards the songwriting and performances of Paul Stanley. Gene Simmons always felt as if he was kind of tongue-in-cheek. If there's going to be any innuendo or double entendres, it's him. And this probably has elements of that, but it's not obvious. But Trial by Fire is a really uplifting, driving rock song that just makes you feel great. I just love this song. I love the bit at the end of the solo, and when the drums drop back and Gene's kind of half screaming, half saying "Trial by Fire," it just makes me feel great. It's a great driving song. It's a great song to put on in the morning, and it's a great song to put on in the evening. I just love it. That's at number 10. The other thing now, as I go to track number 9, is that when you get into a band from a different point in time and you start to read up, you want to, of course, books like this, and fans start saying, oh, these are the classic albums, don't ever buy this one. You become curious, don't you? And this was one of those curiosities. It's music from The Elder, and it features my number 9 track, which is The Oath. Now, many people will say this is the worst album they ever made. It's a concept album by Kiss. You could say it's a prog album by Kiss, produced by Bob Ezrin and even. And he obviously had a vision for them. And if this had been a success, what would have happened, I wonder? And when we say that this is seen as their worst album, there are books on this. It has a following all on its own. I have this on vinyl as well. I love it. I love everything about it. The overblown nature of it. What were they thinking? The kind of, it's orchestrally, froggily wonderful album to me. And The Oath, yes, is a rock song, and it builds to that point. I think that must have been in their set. I mean, you big Kiss fans tell me that or not. But I think it's a great track. And that is my number 9, my top 10 Kiss tracks. So what is at number 8? This is a more obvious one. It's Bob Ezrin again. And it's Destroyer from 1976. And it's Shout It Out Loud. There's so many great tracks on here. I could have picked Do You Love Me, which Girl covered, which I bought on a single. But no, Shout It Out Loud, I think, is a punch the air, great rock song. That should have got me in the 70s, but I had blinkers on. I didn't want to know. That is an iconic cover now. One of the best covers of all time. But in 1976, that put me off. It was Marvel Comics, and Kiss were just larger than life. But I couldn't get there then, but then I did. And I think Shout It Out Loud is just an anthemic, punch the air rock song. Throw your head back, put your hands on your hips, get your air guitars out. Superb. So that is at number 8. At number 7, I'm going to make sure I find these properly. And is it on that one? Yes, it is. Hot in the Shade. And it's a ballad, and it's called Forever. And it's just gorgeous. Paul Stanley sings this so well. One of the best rock ballads of that period of time, of the 80s. Now, at this time, we have the CD age, where all of a sudden everybody's making their albums over an hour long because they can. And then they're trying to fit that onto a vinyl album at the same time, and the pressings are awful in the 80s. It doesn't sound great, but the CD version does. But what I'm trying to say is there are too many tracks on this album, really. Also, Paul Stanley is really carrying everything. Gene Simmons is off in Hollywood trying to become a film star, and and he is delivering songs because I think they had this deal where they all had to write so many songs. But Gene's are probably, they're not at the same standard of Paul's. And Paul Stanley's tracks are fantastic. But Forever, it's such a heartfelt rock ballad. And it's also interesting, you'll notice that many of the albums that I'm picking are from the same period, and it's where they're not wearing the makeup. They just Kiss, the rock band. So Forever is at number 7. And now I'm going to 2012, which is going to surprise many Kiss fans. But for those of you who aren't sure and you're curious, it's a good place to dip into. 2012, the album is Monster, and it's the opening track called Hell or Hallelujah, which has a burnesque feel to the riff, I feel. But it's a wonderful song. Hell or Hallelujah, even, from Monster from 2012. It's a great track. And it's a shame that they decided at this point, in 2012, that's it, we're done. We're not doing any new music. No one buys albums anymore. Not in the volume that they did when you were shifting thousands and thousands and thousands. But it was a shame you stopped here, although it was on a high point. So, Monster, Hell and Hallelujah is my number 6. Next is from 1989, another album which is seen as not being one of the high watermarks, and it's Psycho Circus with the very clever cover there. This comes with a screensaver which says as long as you have a Windows 95 machine, it should work. Can you imagine? I don't play the rest of it very often, but I've thought the track Psycho Circus with Paul Stanley again at the helm is a fantastic rock track. It gets me every time. I've got some live stuff, concerts where they play that track, and I think it's worthy of being seen as a Kiss classic. So that's number 5. We're halfway there now, my top 10. Psycho Circus. How many other people would have that there? I wonder. Next, we are going to a big hit in the UK, which was Crazy Nights. I have to say, Crazy Nights itself, although it's really catchy, isn't one of my favourite Kiss tracks at all. So it isn't that one. It's actually I'll Fight Hell to Have You, to hold you even. I'll fight hell to hold you. This is fantastic. This is a really good album. It's one of the strong. It is quite a long album as well, but I think here the songwriting is really, really superb. But that track, which follows on from Crazy Nights, is just stunning to me. Paul Stanley is on fire. The delivery of the verses, the production, absolutely fantastic. I'll Fight Hell to Hold You by Kiss from Crazy Nights. Where are we now? Oh yes. We're going back to Asylum. So I've left that there for those of you watching. If you're listening, of course, you don't know, but I've left Asylum on display here because that's my entry point album, which I wanted to touch on at the end. But this also, I could have easily picked other tracks than this if I'd had my top 20. But it is Who Wants to Be Lonely. I think the way that people perceive Kiss is that when they sing about romantic liaisons, everything goes well for them and they always get their own way. I think that there's this kind of vulnerability in Paul Stanley's lyrics and the way he writes, which I think comes out in the book. That it's more angst in it. There's more. I believe Paul Stanley in the way he sings, whereas with Gene, I was always thinking he's kind of tongue in his cheek and he's not taking this maybe that seriously. Not all the time, but some of the time. But with Paul Stanley, I always felt that the songs were he meant it. Maybe there will be somewhere someone will say, well, are you sure? But on songs like this, Who Wants to Be Lonely, the way he sings this, you really feel who the hell wants to be lonely, if you don't have to be. It's just a vocal tour de force to me. And it's this album, as I say, sent me down a rabbit hole of realising that Paul Stanley not only looked the part, he had the voice, the stage presence, everything, the whole package. Paul Stanley is one of the greatest rock stars of all time, really. And for people who can't get past the make or whatever, I would recommend that you watch the I think it was a reunion concert filmed in Australia with a full orchestra, where the whole orchestra is wearing Kiss makeup. Watch that, and even if you think you don't like the band, watch that. It's just an incredible concert. It's just superb. So that was Who Wants to Be Lonely, number 3 from the album Asylum. 2 to go. And we're going back to, if I can find it, which I should be able to find it. Where am I? Yes, I am. Sorry. It's on Crazy Nights again. And it's Reason to Live. It's a ballad. My second ballad in my top 10. Forever was the other one. And Reason to Live is this one. Now, some of you will say, that's that track that sounds just like I Want to Know What Love Is by Foreigner, isn't it? I can see why you'd say that. And I've thought at first, gosh, the lawyers must be busy. But when you listen to them back to back, which I did the other day, apart from the very opening section, they are very different songs. I mean, Reason to Live is based around a 2-chord sequence, and the song just floats along with this really steady pace. Do you remember the video when they're on the biggest sound stage you've ever seen in your life, where it's about half a mile wide and all the lights and everything's there, and it's a ballad, and Stanley just sings so well. It's just so strange to see a band where there's about 40 feet between each member because the stage is so big, but it fits because this song is so big. And it's delivered so well. I love the Foreigner song, and I love this, so I can see that they're very different. But Reason to Live, and again, it's another one of those songs where there's angst and melancholy in it, but a sense of positivity and authority in the way it's delivered. It's one of my favourite songs. Because of the way of the vocal performance. They could have easily overdone it with the guitars, but they didn't. So that's at number 2. So what is my favourite Kiss song of all time? It's from this album, Hot in the Shade Again, which again is not an album that many Kiss fans will be putting towards the top of their list at all. It's Hide Your Heart, which is the 3rd track in. It's a bit like lyrically Romeo and Juliet, or is it West Side Story? It's sung in the 3rd person. A lot of songs at this time, Bon Jovi did this. Lots of people did about, Johnny All Alone and all the rest of it. And there's Bad Streets and Getting In With the Wrong Gang and all that. It's that kind of thing. But the chorus, I'm a complete sucker for choruses that just make you, lift you up, that go with a key change and have a kind of vocal chant in them. This is that time for these kind of songs. And whenever I'm playing any Kiss music, I always play this song. And it wasn't in the set very often, which is a real shame. But when Paul Stanley went out solo, he resurrected this track, Hide Your Heart. Listen to that song. Just stop thinking it's Kiss and just listen to that. And I know other people out there and go, Phil, you've got to mention Parasite and all this kind of stuff. And from the first albums, I know, it was on my list. But I thought I've got to draw a line here to what I'm going to do. And also Creatures of the Night. There's nothing from there. What about I Still Love You? You might be saying, God of Thunder, Strutter, Juice. These are my top 10 Kiss tracks of all time. Some of them might move around, but that top part, that top 3, Who Wants to Be Lonely, Reason to Live, and Hide Your Heart, they never move. And I think it's because of where I came in. I came in the 80s, that big rock sound and drum sound and the production values, and I've got all the early albums as well. but there's just something that doesn't, and I like them, but wherever your entry point is to a band, it kind of influences how you judge the back catalogue. Like The Elder, you know, if I'd have come in the early 70s and gone through all those tracks, albums rather, would I have then gone, whoa? But because I didn't, and I was bouncing around and going to Dynasty, The Elder, and you know, Asylum, and all the. And I know there's lots of other albums around this period, but these are the tracks that have resonated with me the most over the years. And Paul Stanley is one of my favourite vocalists. So thanks, Neil, for introducing me to this band all those years ago. And also, I would highly recommend the book. It's a great story, and if you're not into the band. So, what would your list be like? If it's not your band, you don't need to comment. If it is, obviously, I hope you're getting over the fact that I picked so much stuff from the 80s when they weren't even wearing makeup, and some of them more latter albums as well. But listen to this if you're not used to it. If you are, what did you think of my list? It'd be nice to know. And thank you again for all of your support in supporting Now Spinning Magazine. Remember, you can buy merch and mugs and all sorts of stuff. If you become a member or YouTube member, patron, you can come along and join our private groups on Facebook and WhatsApp, and also come along to our twice monthly meetup at our own virtual pub called the Now Spinning Arms. So please subscribe, ring that little bell, and thank you for being here. Take care, all of you. Remember, music is the healer and the doctor, and I'll talk to you all very, very soon.